Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's DA.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody. DA with you. Mraz will join me shortly. The reason this is very special is because this is episode number 53, which means since it's the weekly podcast and we have not taken a week off, we have done exactly 1 year's worth of the Permission Granted podcast. You can always get us by subscribing to our iTunes feed, the same feed that brings you the show every single night. Simply go to iTunes and search The DA Show, CBS Sports. Also, we upload it to our Facebook page, facebook.com/The DA Show, as well as YouTube, youtube.com/The DA Show, and we always tweet it out as well. All right, Mraz joins me now, and 1 year later, do you remember the genesis of why we started doing the PGP 1 year ago?
I can remember exactly where we were. We were eating breakfast post-show, which was as unhealthy as could be on the overnight.
Me, you, and Brock.
Right.
Down here on the corner at Essen?
I believe it was Essen, right. We were getting the eggs, and you had this grand master plan that we needed to pump out more content, and we needed to, up our game a little bit.
Always more content.
Always more content. And we were on board because for guys like me and Brock, it gave us an extra way to, show we could talk about more than, farts and stomachs, which... In the end, the podcast ended up being a lot about farts and fat.
Well, what I wanted to do, what I thought was a good idea, was that there was a lot of stuff going on between us off of the air that we never got to on the air.
Right.
Because myself, you, Brock, we became good friends, and so there was a lot of stuff that would go on along with shorts as well that we just never got to because we'd have to kind of stay on topic, stay on point, and do sports stuff. So this is going to be a good way to do that. I also... Look, I wanted you guys to one day host the show, sub in when I'm out, because there's always these rotating substitute teachers, which I like them all, but I always thought that you guys should be able to do that. And so I wanted this also to be a place that you guys could cut your teeth, host some shows, get some reps. Now, Brock ended up leaving for the TV side of things.
Yeah, after he got the reps, he realized this wasn't for me.
Not for him. Now, a year later... Do you feel like you're better served that you could step in and fill in and host the DA show?
100% I could.
100%.
100%. And it's funny because I went back to, reminisce and look at some of the stuff that we might play back later in the show.
Yeah.
And even from listening stuff in the early days a year ago, this Permission Granted podcast, I think I've come light years from a year.
Really?
I feel like I sound completely different, too.
How so?
Just, very dry, very hesitant. I feel like I have a more free-flowing flow now.
Okay. More free.
More free. Free as a bird.
The
free as I will ever be.
Free.
The
Okay.
flow is free. Right.
So,
I might say the same thing a year from now. Who knows?
That hopefully.
Right.
Hopefully. So 1 year later, we're doing this. And I also thought that it's great to get stuff, just bonus content like show analysis off of the air. This was something that Stern did years ago by kind of having the guys around his show do an off-air show. And now it's become kind of the rage around sports talk, too. You've got producers that are talking about the show because it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that we get to, it's like breaking down the show as it's a sporting event or something.
Right, exactly.
So that's what this kind of was for as well.
It made sense. There was plenty to get to. I mean, newsroom fights, anything like that.
There's never been a lull in that type of stuff to talk about.
No, it's funny because we'll always think about that like a week later, whoever I was doing side B with. Well, what are we going to talk about in next week's podcast? Don't worry, something will come up.
And the one other thing I wanted to do was have a pretty solid guest every week.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of our guests we wanted to have on, but they didn't fit into the normal sports radio structure.
Right. They weren't exactly going to break down the NFC South.
So actors, comedians, or off-topic guys like the Star Wars aficionado, Hello Greedo. Or, some of my buddies that we've had on here on the show. I've always wanted to find a niche because I think it's interesting, but sometimes they just don't fit into your normal 8 to 10-minute radio segment.
Makes sense.
So that's where we are. That was the battle plan. That was the philosophy, and hopefully we've executed pretty well. I will say I was looking back on our guest list. I think early on we were very, very strong with guests.
Right. It's been a roller coaster.
I think recently we've fallen off a little bit. I think we've taken a dip.
Summer low.
Well, this time last year we had some heavy hitters. We had Pat O'Brien.
We did have Pat O'Brien.
We had Tom Arnold.
We had Tom Arnold.
We had Eliza Schlesinger, who's the comedian.
We did have Eliza Schlesinger, yes.
Well,
this week you had me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Last week was Big Jim Murray. Oh, no, last week was J.J. Devaney doing soccer. The week before that was my buddy Big Jim Murray in Boston.
Right, I mean, not exactly A-listers, I understand.
So I think we got to try to get back to that.
We'll work on that. Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're efforting that?
We're efforting that.
I'm going to give you a pass just because I've been out a lot.
We haven't had the consistency
There hasn't
we're
been a lot of
looking for.
consistency. But once Labor Day comes, all bets are off. It's like all hands on deck.
Right. Good point.
Full steam ahead.
That'll be when I'm going on vacation, too. So,
But after Labor Day,
yeah.
That's the first week of the NFL season. That's where we need to target getting back to what we really wanted to do.
Okay. All right. And then this is what we wanted the Permission Granted podcast, stuff that we would talk about off the air,
Right.
being on the air.
Okay, so I want to go back over some of our favorite moments.
Okay.
Let's go back to the first episode. Let's go back to 1 year ago last week when we had on Pat O'Brien.
Right.
He was doing a book tour. Is that right?
Yes, it was a book, and he was really open and honest about his alcoholism.
Yes.
Which was, almost, helpful to, learn your lesson and just, crazy to see somebody go down that path and, go back and reminisce.
He was like a Hollywood insider, but lived like a Hollywood actor.
Right.
And he had drug issues, I think, and he had alcohol issues, and he went off the rails.
Yeah, he went on like a 3-day blackout bender off wine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was insane.
Yeah, he gave us a lot of those good stories. So let's play a little clip here from Pat O'Brien from PGP number 1.
Sure, you've never disagreed with anything any of your bosses have said. I would create that. I would go home and drink over that. And people, look, having a drink works. I'm not going to kid. It makes you feel better. But then you say, well, I got to have 2, then 3, then 4. So I medicated all the problems that I might have had emotionally with alcohol, and it doesn't work. I mean, you can medicate it with other things, like spirituality and getting to work on yourself. But to your point, anybody that can look at themselves and see they're going the wrong way, it's very easy to make that U-turn, which you can.
So a pretty serious first PGP.
Right. Yeah, I went back and I listened to a lot of this today, and he was like really open and honest, and it was almost like, okay. Now, I mean, this wasn't what we went with Ralphie May later on, but
right.
But still, it was very serious, and I think it was very insightful and very real, which was, I think, pretty cool for us to come out the gates with.
That was and we wanted to jump off with a really good guest, so we held back on doing the PGP until we had a really good guest.
Exactly.
And that was
really solid. I think that actually got picked up a couple places at the beginning, if I remember, because he kind of took a shot at Opie and Anthony or something like that early. But
that got a lot of run.
It was cool. That was very cool.
Okay, so that was a good way to lead off. What was the next one we want to go to here?
Well, I think, forget the guest for a sec, during football season, when Kenny Brock unloaded on the Cowboys and me and lost his mind, and you really forget just how good Brock could be when you really got him angry.
So this was a couple of months later, probably October or so. When
it was late October, yes.
And the Cowboys were kind of red hot, and we'd all wondered, are they real or not?
They had just beaten the Seahawks, actually.
Which, remember, I said there's absolutely no way they're going to go to Seattle and win, and I got annihilated by our listeners.
Right, and Brock, being an Eagle fan, want to let everybody know just how much he thought of the Cowboys.
Yeah, here it is.
They're the freaking Dallas Cowboys. What do we expect from them? They want all the glitz and the glamour and the fame and everyone to talk about them. This is what you're supposed to freaking do. You're supposed to win. Sorry that you've been mediocre for over a freaking decade, but I'm not going to pat you on the back for going 6-1 when that is what is expected of a team of that, quote unquote caliber and an organization of that caliber. I have zero respect for the Cowboys. Cool, you went to Seattle and won. Seattle looks like they're not the team that they were last year. Okay, you beat the Saints. The Saints suck this year. Who else have you beaten? The Titans suck. The Rams suck. The Texans suck. The Giants suck. Shut up.
The Giants were really beat up in that game.
Shut up. The Giants suck.
Have you seen that injury Rolodex?
Shut up.
And that was a one-possession game late.
That's it. Your mic's going off until I'm done with my freaking rant. The Giants freaking suck, and I don't want to hear a second I don't want to hear a second freaking word about it.
I mean, when Brock was on fire, he was on fire, and you could not stop it. And I was dying. I was in the airport listening to that. I forget where I was going. I think maybe
Kansas City?
That was my weekend in Kansas City. That's right. Visiting some friends back there for the Chiefs game, and that's when the Royals were in the World Series as well. I was listening in the airport, and I was laughing in front of everybody. And people are like, what are you listening to? I could just strangers. I'm just listening to Brock say, shut up. You shut up.
He was legitimately mad.
Up.
And he used to sit where I'm sitting right now, and he kind of like operated everything, and I'd be over where you are. So he had access to the board. He literally shut my mic off, and he said, forget you.
Forget you.
Forget you. All right, Kenny. Listen, you got to let it rip. You got to let it rip. He needed a vent.
He needed to.
Dallas kind of had the last laugh on his Eagles, but yeah, that's the way it goes.
Remember, this was also the time when Brock was nearly 2 years into sleeping like 4 hours a day.
Right, and eating basically a muffin a day.
He was not healthy.
No, he was not.
He
was not healthy.
He was not healthy physically nor mentally.
He was a short fuse.
He was living in that apartment in
Hoboken.
In Hoboken that had no air conditioning.
No.
And it was just hot after hot after hot. He's sleeping on the couch.
Walking 2 miles to the path. Yeah, exactly. And he didn't eat anything. He couldn't sleep. I was surprised the guy survived 2 years.
Angry Brock was great for on air because when you flipped open the microphone and he was angry, he didn't care. Shots were fired. He didn't care who was collateral damage. He didn't care who was getting hit. The problem was, off the air, Brock was also Angry Brock, which made us have to tiptoe around him a few nights.
You had to be careful what you said to him because it was just going to cause an unnecessary fight, and you just had to throw your hands up. All right, Kenny, we'll see you tomorrow.
There were some days that you didn't want to get in the middle of
Brock
off air.
He was in charge of podcasting after the show because I would get there earlier than him the night before, so I would usually leave right after the show, and there were days he would just get so angry with me like 2 hours left in the show that he would just walk out at 6 and leave me to podcast. Like, screw you.
Yeah, just walk out.
Boy, I don't miss those days.
Screw you. Shut up. You shut up. Shut up. Okay, so that was October. Let's fast forward a little bit, and let's go to the Star Wars Permission Granted podcast. This was... this was December the 4th, okay?
December the 4th. As clearly you're firing it off on your phone, and we're picking that up
because
here.
I'm looking at what date it was. This was episode number 16. It was December 4th when about a year before they were going to release the newest Star Wars, the trailer came out. It caught the internet on fire. Everybody had to watch this trailer. And so one of the biggest Star Wars honks going is a guy by the name of Hello Greedo. He has, developed an online empire, right?
Right, exactly. And that's what he's talking about in this clip, basically, how he got started and what people think of him.
Okay.
Well, I was actually in the military, and I got out, and I found myself very bored. And that's about the time the Blu-ray releases were coming out, and I found out they were going to make a lot of changes to them. So I literally just kind of wrote a script, set up the camera, and started, going on my nerd rage. And that's pretty much what kickstarted the YouTube channel. It's very mixed reviews. A lot of the younger generation finds my videos kind of repulsive, and the older fans, I'm assuming like us, really connect with them. They like the points. They despise the special editions, and they think the prequels were just, the biggest disappointment in movie history, really.
So for those that might not be Star Wars centric, the videos that he posts, a lot of them are like specifically ripping apart some of the new stuff and going back over flaws in the new movies, the prequels, making fun of the stuff, kind of being your old school traditionalist Star Wars fan,
right,
and crushing the new stuff. I asked him, so in that vein, do you think that the new one looks stupid? Because there were a couple things I thought looked stupid in the trailer, and he was all on board. He can't wait to see this new movie, which is now only a couple months away.
Right, so it still hasn't come out, because I'm not a Star Wars guy.
No, December.
Boy, we really hit this spot early, huh?
Well, that's when the trailer came out.
The trailer came out,
The trailer released, and that was like all over the internet.
So maybe we bring Greedo back when it happens.
Hello Greedo should probably come back. I'm sure that I'm not going to see it the day that it's released. Those people that go out there. Totally
midnight, ready to go in the uniforms?
Yeah, well, dressed as Wookiees and Prince Amidala's. But I'm sure he's going to be one of those guys.
Oh, 100%. He'll be there for one of the first shows.
So maybe we should, tape with him like 5 minutes after he watches the first episode.
I'm in the mix.
Or the first
Easy
show.
Booking job for me. I'll do it.
You'll love it.
Listen, anytime I can take the short corner, I'm in.
I've noticed that. So that was December. A couple of weeks later, we actually moved from the overnight to the evening show that we do now, 6 to 10 Eastern. and we did an overnight retrospective, which was episode 20. That was one of my favorite PGPs because we just went over all of the funny stuff that happened over 2 years in the overnight.
Right. That was an excellent PGP. A lot of railing on Schwartz. A lot of good times.
Yeah. You love railing on Schwartz.
I do. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
We don't do that a lot anymore.
You miss it. He actually called me last night on the phone, and we had a nice conversation, and it was fun. We kind of railed on each other a little bit on the phone. So,
what did you guys talk about?
He was just, talking about his current situation on the overnight, and kind of just let me know he misses us.
Is he sleeping?
No, he's not sleeping.
Is he sleeping less than Brock used to?
Well, Schwartz always slept less than Brock did. He just kind of put on a better front and napped between updates.
Yeah, that was the one thing. He could get a few disco naps in between updates.
Definitely. And now, back when we were doing the show, there were 3 updates during the show during an hour.
On
now
the 20s.
Now there's only 2, so a little more nap time for Pete.
Yeah.
A little more nap time.
And
he needs it.
Brock couldn't sleep during the show. He couldn't sleep anyway.
No, exactly. But, yeah, Pete's job was about 4 minutes per hour, so he could do that. Kenny had to work all 60 minutes in an hour, like a regular human.
Did you ever see Brock nod off?
Once, and you weren't in. He felt like garbage. I think Jastrzemski was in.
Okay.
And there was like a break. It was like a 7-minute break, and he had climbed underneath the board, and he was like, I just need to shut my eyes for like 4 minutes. Just get me when the updates about the fire.
He went on the floor?
Yeah, I guess I've never told you this. Yeah, he went on the floor underneath where the board is, and he's like, just just leave me alone 4 minutes, the update. It was like 4 in the morning. I'm like, all right, Kenny, whatever. And I had to go tinkle. I came back in, and I realized that I had taken the extra minute to tinkle, and the update fired, and Brock was out like a light underneath, and Schwartz was basically yelling over the music.
No!
Like, all right, the Yankees beat the Mets, and nobody was taking the music down. I jumped over Brock to take the music down. He woke up, he's like, I told you to wake me up. I'm like, I had to go to the bathroom. I thought you were going to wake up.
How long was he sleeping for?
I guess it was like 9 minutes. He was out. Out.
He was, so there was, in those 9 minutes, you couldn't wait to go to the bathroom?
It just, I had to go. I didn't know he was about to leave. I would have went the earlier break if I knew he was going to do that. I had to go. I didn't think he would, like, really nod off. Like, who thinks the person next to you is going to really nod off? He did.
He was sleeping on the floor under the board.
Right. And thankfully, Schwartz was in there on time because that was always a gamble, too. Could have been a total disaster.
So how did it fire automatically?
Because automatically it fires. Like, our brakes are kind of automated, and the update will automatically, boom, go after the brake. As long as Brock fires the brake.
But so how did Brock fire the brake if he's sleeping under the desk?
Well, he fired the brake and then climbed underneath the desk, and it was like a 5-minute into the update. Like
I see. So he's sleeping during the commercial break.
Right, exactly. It would be up to, and then you have to pull down the music so the update anchor could go, and he didn't pull it down.
Oh my God!
It was a disaster.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that was good times.
Wow. One of our most popular podcasts we ever did was last January, actually. This one was January 16th, so just a couple of weeks after we started the evening show. And that was with former wrestling hero and star Triple H. Remember, the wrestling community got this, and it blew up.
Right. It was on every wrestling magazine, everything.
This, I think, had the most views we've ever had. It had thousands on YouTube. It had thousands on the SoundCloud format. It was everywhere. Everywhere in wrestling.
The wrestling fans loved it.
The wrestling community ate it up. So here is Triple H.
Everybody makes personal choices in their life, and a lot of people, even some of my very close friends and my best friends, made personal choices of how they wanted to live their life that I never chose, that I never went down those roads. And I will put the physicality of my career up against anybody's. Majority of those guys made personal choices to live a certain way, and you can't live that way forever. It's a short run. It's fast and furious, and it's a short run. And did it affect me? Absolutely.
That was really cool because I asked him about the physicality and how demanding it is to wrestle, and all these guys that have taken their lives and kind of did drugs and alcohol and all these steroids and everything, and he shed some light on that whole thing. We had a really great run of guests around that time. We had Rachel Bonetta, who had recently gotten a job at MLS.
Jeez, that was that
website.
Long ago?
That was in January, yeah.
Wow.
And Rachel has now just become a star. She's all over the place on MLS's social media. She's so good. And this was right before she really blew up, so that was so cool. That was also around the time we had Nick DiPaolo on.
Nick DiPaolo was hysterical.
DiPaolo was great. He was hysterical. That was like late January, early February. So we were really crushing it. We did the The SNL at 40 with my boy Adam Kaufman breaking down the Saturday Night Live night.
Hard to believe that Saturday Night Live was that long ago.
Yeah, that was back in February.
Wow.
We had the guy that directed Kobe's documentary, right? That was Gotham Chopra, who's Deepak Chopra's son. That was like early March. So we kind of kept moving along. We had really great guests around that time. I loved the guy that did the baseball card industry from Topps.
Yeah, okay.
That was a lot of fun. And then I think that takes us to Jen Royal, right?
Right.
Because that's...
Jen Royal may be my favorite guest that we had on the entire year.
Is that right?
Yeah, because she was that funny.
So Jen Royal was PGP number 40, and this was May 29th, so just before Memorial Day. And... look, I know Jen from my days in Boston. She covered the Orioles and the Ravens down in Baltimore. She covered the Yankees for the Yes Network. Now she's in Boston. She's a native Bostonian. She's whip smart. She's funny. And then she went on the reality cooking show, and now she's become a chef.
Unbelievable. And she loves eating. No desserts.
She is so Boston through and through. It's hysterical.
He's so cute, and I always look at him, and I'm like, how does something so nasty come out of your ass, but your face is so cute? It's like, it's ridiculous. But he knows when his ass stinks. Like, I'll say, buddy, your bum stinks. And he, like, curls up and runs in the corner of the room. And, he farts in his sleep. And, he jumps up, he scares himself and hides under the stairs. It's really funny. So he knows that his ass stinks.
That's good.
You know what? I feel like everybody knows when their ass stinks.
That was Jen talking about her dog, Truman, her bulldog, who has his own social media account.
Awesome for the dog. And apparently his ass stinks like mine.
And then didn't Jen talk about something else?
Yeah, she talked about something we all like, racks.
Yeah.
And not racks of ribs.
Right. And you're active, and you're tweeting up a storm, and everybody can come see you at your restaurant.
Yeah, and there's lots of boobs on my Twitter account.
Are they yours or other people's?
They're my boobs.
Oh, okay.
Boobs for days. Boobs, boobs, boobs. Boobies, boobies, boobies. What's better than boobs? Nothing. Boobs and beef. Come on. Perfect.
Boobs and what?
Beef.
Oh, beef. Yeah.
A good steak and a good rack.
That's a guy's girl right there, Mraz. A guy's girl who is willing to talk about boobies and beef. And asses that stink.
I never felt so good after listening to a Permission Granted podcast, and hungry for that matter.
That was also one of our most listened to, most popular podcasts we've had guests on, because Jen Royal was just outstanding the entire. I mean, we did like a half hour, and she had me cracking up like for all 30 minutes. It was great. And so that brings us to Steve-O, Planet Steve-O, Steve Moralia, who took over for one of the producer roles when Kenny Brock left, when we changed time slots coming into this new year.
Good old Steve-O.
And Planet Steve-O was with us through June or July? June,
it was early June, because I remember specifically the Rangers got eliminated in the last night with us because we were out watching the game.
Right. So he took a job at MSG, Madison Square Garden.
Being one of James Dolan's, insiders.
Inner spies.
Right. He's a spy.
Yeah, basically he's employed to look at what people say, what people write about the Knicks and Rangers, and then tell Dolan whether they should have credentials or not.
Right, and basically was afraid to tell us that on the air, but told us that off the air.
Yeah. So Steve-O, his work ethic was questionable. his prowess, his acumen, certainly in question.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But his attitude was through the roof great.
Always positive, no matter what. And let me tell you something. If something goes awry in a partnership, he's the guy who's going to jail for you. So there's no doubt.
Is he the fall guy?
He is the fall guy, right? He's the guy Chris Carter's telling you about. He will take the fall. Now, 99% of the time he's taking the fall for himself in that situation. But nonetheless, he is still a fall guy.
I would say his work ethic, 1 to 10, 6.
He would... I don't know if Steve would work hard or if he would just somehow make it appear as if he was working hard. He either worked the hardest that anybody's ever worked without seeing results, or gave the impression that he worked so hard and was just had such bad luck that it really fooled you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So what would you grade him as, 1 to 10, work ethic?
A 5, because I still don't understand what it is. But it could have been great. It could have been bad.
Okay. How about prowess, acumen? Actually, ability to do the job.
I mean, that's a 2. He failed a lot.
He failed a lot.
He failed a lot.
I might give him a 3 or 4.
I mean, well, I should say this. Technically, he's a 10 if we go by Steve-O's theory. We never got knocked off the air. That was a favorite thing Steve liked to say. Well, did we get knocked off the air?
That was where his bar was.
Right. So he's a 10 there, if that's the acumen level.
Enthusiasm?
Oh, a 10.
A 10.
Oh,
Could he get higher?
He was excited. He was cracking jokes. A lot of times, you won't see this when I'm in the newsroom and guys roll in, and I'm kind of this way too. You need to give me and others a bit. When we first sit down, we first get to work, it's let me put down the bag, let me relax, let me get into a little bit of a groove.
Yeah.
And then, I'll wake up and we could start making jokes. Steve-O, much like a Rich Ackerman, if you will, will come in just a ball of fire, ready to mix it up with you, and you're like, Steve, you got to give me a second, man. You got to take it down a second, then I'll get to your level.
So he was like sending the blitz first play.
Right. You calm down. Can we get into a rhythm here? Absolutely.
He was intense.
He was very intense. But the intense made you laugh after 2 hours, but not 30 seconds into seeing him.
He left a legacy despite only having worked on the show for 6 months.
Yeah, the most wild card impact member of the DA show in the 3 years.
All right, so let's play a clip where you were out for a week and he had to take over as executive producer because Ward was out for the week as well.
Right.
Let's face it, the pecking order would have been you out, Ward gets that slot.
Definitely.
But Moralia, because both of you guys were out, got that slot for the entire week. It started out okay. Middle of the week, tenuous. By the end of the week, I was pulling out my hair. I was
getting texts like, can you get on an earlier flight and get back here?
It was no good. And here was Steve-O talking about it here on the PGP. You're so stressed.
I am. I want this to go well. I want to get an A. Damn it, I want an A.
The effort's been there.
I hope so. I mean, I've gotten 1,000 more gray hairs since I started working on this
The effort's
show.
been there. It's just that you let a lot of things drop between the cracks.
No.
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, I don't.
You're so adamant to fight that point, and then within 5 seconds, you're like, well, yeah, no, that's a good point.
Well, you brought up to me right before we started the podcast that I didn't tweet, that I don't tweet out the guests.
Yeah, that's just a small sample. His laugh is infectious. It's all over the laugh montage and will live there forever.
Right, which is why Steve-O will forever be a part of the DA show because you will always hear that laugh and his old tag. That's going to be in the laugh montage.
I haven't seen Steve-O since.
No, and we had vowed to keep in touch. I had invited him to my block party, and I was going to be there. I'm going to be there. Doesn't show up. I text him around 5 o'clock that afternoon. Hey, Steve, where are you? I still have not heard from him since. I mean, I don't want to wish this on him, but he could be dead in a ditch somewhere. I don't know where Steve-O is. We got to find him.
Wow. Great.
And the thing, he doesn't have the social, like we talked about for months, he doesn't have the social media. So even if you don't talk to somebody and you read their tweets, you see their Facebooks, you're not in touch with them, but you feel as if you're in touch with them. Steve-O doesn't have any of that. So literally you have, the guy could be in Japan, the guy could be down the block, he could be anywhere right now.
I worked with that guy every week, almost every night for 6 months. I didn't, after June 1 or whatever it was when he left, I haven't exchanged a text. I haven't heard from him. I haven't heard a story about him. Haven't seen him. Haven't anything.
Clean break.
I mean, maybe
that was for the best.
He just fell off the map. Let's wrap up with the only time we ever had an adult film star here on the show, on the Permission Granted podcast. That was Jada Diamond, who, had you heard of Jada before she contacted us?
Had I heard of her? No. Had I seen her work without knowing it was her? Yes.
You had seen some of her work.
I'd seen some of her work. I'd then recognized after going and doing more in-depth.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe
research.
This. Research. And then I realized.
Background.
Oh, yeah, okay. I've seen her. 3 a.m. on a Friday, nothing on the telephone. Right.
Yeah. So Jada Diamond is a Cleveland, she's not a Cleveland native, but she's moved to Cleveland with her husband.
Right. Her husband was from Cleveland originally, and she's adopted their sports teams.
Shockingly, she's from the state of Florida, and she moved there just seems to be a lot of adult film stars that start in Florida or end up in Florida. So she ended up moving to Cleveland, became a huge Cavaliers and Browns fan. We're talking about the NBA playoffs, NBA finals, and she's listening to us, tweeting back and forth with us because apparently she used to listen to us when we were on the overnights in Cleveland.
Right. Target demo.
So you ask her if she wants to come on the PGP. She's like, sure.
Sure. Love the DA show. Let's go.
And here was a little bit of Jada Diamond.
I basically shoot top-end movies. So when I'm looking to shoot, the producers already pretty much know that I'm looking for that, and they come right out and they go, "This is what we have to offer. This is what we're shooting. Would you like it? Yes or no?" And I basically tell them I normally don't go out there for less than 4 or 5 scenes, and of course the specific price that I'm asking per scene.
Right.
And if you can commit to all that, and then I'm good to go.
I'm good to go.
The best part of that is your subtle commentary. Yeah, right. Okay. You were left speechless during that interview.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense.
Later on in that interview, by the way, was when she had basically told us the signed piece of memorabilia she had sent to one fan, which was also an outrageous comment.
It was a sex toy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I guess we could say sex toy. She sent a sex toy, and I believe it was used, correctly?
Yeah. Previously,
weathered.
Weathered, very weathered, and used by her for a while. And then one of her fans wanted it, and she autographed it and sent it to him.
Right, and we're only hoping that's behind a glass case somewhere, not still in play.
Yeah, and who knows if the batteries were still in it.
Oh, jeez, the Energizer Bunny.
That's the only way I think we'll ever have an adult film star here on the PGP is if she's a hardcore, if she's a listener. I don't want to use the hardcore.
Yeah, that's a rough word to use there.
No, because I don't think that's technically, would you consider her genre hardcore?
No. By the definition of hardcore, no, but,
By the definition of normal people, very.
Yeah. Right. I'm even left speechless.
Did you end up watching more of her stuff after she was on?
I've probably seen at least 8 of her videos.
Okay.
8 of her videos, yes.
So what did you think watching her after?
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Having her on the show. What? So
I'm thinking this poor sweetheart who's talking to me is a filthy mouth in there.
She sounds so sweet.
And there's stuff she could do with certain muscles. Let's just say she should be in the Olympics.
Oh, God.
Yes.
She
used the word snow globe. Hey. So I guess if you haven't listened to that, maybe you should go back and listen.
What a year.
Hey, everything from Pat O'Brien to Triple H to porn stars.
So since we are, I assume we're going to keep doing the Permission Granted podcast every week from now until we are not doing the show anymore, right?
I would think. Do we plan on not doing the show anymore?
I hope that we keep doing it. It's more work for us. It's more work for you to book the guests. It's more work for us to...
Which is why I take some weeks off on the booking of the guest part.
I've noticed. Taping and editing. But I really love doing it. I think it's a great extension of the show. And I think we should keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And especially now CBS picking it up on their Play.it. We're no longer exclusively on SoundCloud, which is, I guess, nice. A little company money behind it.
We should have a separate Play.it, I think, feed for this.
Well, we could start that now with year 2. I'm sure we can handle that.
And have you noticed other shows are now doing this?
I noticed. I know. And they're really, pimping, acting like they're the first ones to do it. Not to name any names, Gio and Jones. Yeah. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they're the first ones ever to do a little behind the scenes.
Let's face it. Boomer and Carton's guys, Al and Jerry, were doing this before we were.
Of course, yeah. So listen, it's a copycat league.
Stern was doing this before they did.
Right. Every show really, in theory, should be doing it, to be honest.
How many on CBS are now doing it?
I think it's just us and Gio and Jones.
I think the
Pharrell's guys aren't doing it. Gottlieb's guys aren't doing it. Rome's guys aren't doing it.
How about Amy's, though?
Are Ike and Tom DiBendetto doing that with Schwartz?
I think they might be. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, I don't want to say anything yes or no until I know that. And it's probably a bad job by us that we don't know that if they are doing it.
Well, the only reason that I wouldn't know is that it would have just started, right? That the whole thing with the after shows of the podcast, the social media, we kind of got a bump from the management.
Right. All of a sudden, they
2
tabbed
weeks
us.
ago.
Yeah,
right?
we were almost doing it kind of secretive, to be honest. Not that it was secretive, but it was we weren't going to tell them. They come to us if they got wind of it.
Yeah, we were doing it for the listeners. It didn't really matter what management thought. And then management hired consultants, whatever, and they came in. They were like, you guys should be doing this. And we're like, we've been doing this for a year.
Exactly.
So now they encourage other shows to do it. So if Amy's show does do it, it's only because it's in the first 10 days of it, and I just haven't seen it yet.
Right. It could be. Well, then we got to make sure we stay above the best and be the best.
Well, I agree. So this was a good first year. We have the 12 days of Christmas. I feel like every year we should do this, we should call it something else, like the Permishies or something.
The Permishies? We're going to have to work on that name.
Yeah, that's not great. All right, so that'll wrap up this portion. You're probably going to have somebody here coming up for the part B.
How about this for a tease? Surprise on who's with me on side B.
Surprise side B coming up in less than 10 seconds here on the Permission Granted podcast. You'll have to stick around for all of that time. And once again, a reminder, we're here every week off the air stuff on SoundCloud, on iTunes, on YouTube, and on Facebook.
All right, welcome into side B of the retrospective Permission Granted podcast as we have completed an entire year of these bad boys. And this will be a little quicker side B than normal because me and DA obviously ran a little longer than usual in the first half when we usually have those great interviews I book or lack thereof. Joining me on the side B, I tried to do something special here. And I tried to get Steve-O, Planet Steve-O Moralia, as me and DA had just discussed, or DA and I had just discussed. We don't know if he's alive. And the truth is, I can't get a hold of Steve-O. I got a new phone recently. Not all my numbers transferred out. I've completely lost his number. I emailed him a couple times now, and I've gotten nothing back. And as we mentioned, he has no social media. So Steve-O is missing. So I bring in our associate producer who's been here from January, started just like Steve-O, splitting the time and has carried through and didn't bolt to be one of James Dolan's spies. James Ward. James, how are you?
Sean, I'm doing well, and the more time that passes, the more I think it would have been a good idea for me to be James Dolan's spy, but I'm here nonetheless.
Well, it's good to have you, James, and I totally agree with you. And my question...
being James Dolan's spy seems like a pretty good gig, right?
It does, but my other question for that would be, have you... Forget that for a sec. Have you spoken to Steve since he's left?
Not recently.
Not recently.
I spoke to Steve... Since he's left, I spoke to him maybe the week after, 2 weeks later. He was telling me, went out last night, had a good time, didn't have to worry about waking up for work on the weekends. So it seemed like at the time he was really enjoying himself.
Okay, so he was really enjoying himself, and I knew this, and I was talking to him a lot, and he would text me randomly if he was listening to our show. I guess James Dolan had put him up to listening to our show, and he would text me random things. And then I would say about a month and a half ago or so, I was about to have my block party, and Steve-O was all in. I'm going to make the trip. Haven't seen everybody. Let's have a good time. And he was going to sleep at my place, the whole thing. And I talked to him the day before, and it was all in. He never shows up that day. I texted him a couple times of the day. Hey, man, you get lost, everything all right. I hadn't heard from him. Never heard from him. He never texted me back at all that following week, any day. Hey, my bad, man. Make up something. Something came up. Hadn't heard from him. To this day, I still haven't heard from him. And now I've lost his number. Now I've tried emailing him. And we had discussed on this first side that he doesn't have any social media. Really, if you haven't talked to him recently, I haven't talked to him recently. No sign on social media, not answering emails, can't find the guy's number. Is he alive?
So he no-showed, no-called the block party.
Right, and haven't heard from him since.
And you haven't heard from him since.
And usually with the Yankees or whatever, he'll text me something. I haven't heard from him. We don't know if the guy's alive, and that's scary to me.
That is a little scary.
Nothing.
I probably spoke with him maybe May, maybe early June when he first left.
Yeah, he left early June, so yeah. So
when
he
he no-showed the block party.
We're talking about the end of August now, bro.
That's not a good sign for Steve-O.
Steve-O. So I know you listeners love Steve-O and we have fun with Steve-O, but...
Steve-O, if you're listening, please get a hold of either Mraz or myself.
I know obviously it must be more than 48 hours. Do we report this to the authorities?
What are the rules on that?
Yeah, because we're not immediate family and I guess best friends, so I guess did he run off and hide on his own willing? Do you think he didn't like us?
The whole thing was a farce.
The whole thing was a farce, and now that he's working somewhere else, he realized, you know what, I don't like those guys.
He's got a real job, probably wears a suit and tie every day.
Oh, how pathetic.
Thinks he's better than us?
Does he think he's better than us?
I mean, look at you in your gray T-shirt at work, T-shirt and jeans.
It's a nice T-shirt.
Steve-O thinks he's better than you.
Oh, I think I have a booger on this T-shirt, actually.
It's better than mustard stains.
What is this? I need to wash this. That's disgusting. Yeah, so Steve-O...
He thinks he's better than you.
You know what? Looking at my shirt, he is better than me. He might be better than me.
How would you do if you had to wear a suit and tie every day to work? Could you handle it?
I'd be hot. Summertime, I'd be hot, man.
You couldn't change into shorts after office hours.
I know, which is a good secret I like doing.
Has that been discussed on the podcast?
No, it is not. And we almost made it the whole summer, basically, and I'll come clean. The entire summer, because our hours here overlap between business hours and off-business hours, the 9 to 5, I am here 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I will come wearing. You're supposed to wear jeans, a decent shirt, not looking like a slob. Even though the one today I'm wearing
no sandals,
no sandals. Just sneakers is fine. It's
look like a functioning member of society.
Right. It's not a hardcore dress code. But you can't come up looking like you're going to Cancun. However, at 5 o'clock every day after the boss's exit, I will readily admit that I throw on a pair of shorts, cargo shorts at that, which are now getting crapped on. And I do that for comfort. When I leave here, my legs feel free driving home. But you're right. If I was wearing a suit, you can't do that. I feel stuffy in a suit. That's not me.
Yeah, it's definitely not you.
Like if I ever down the line became the pop culture phenomenon I was looking for, and I could sit behind like a TV desk, let's say, do sports, something like that.
You would wear shorts and sneakers and a nice shirt.
I would, if I went shirt and tie, I absolutely would have shorts underneath and make it look like I'm wearing a suit. I'd be that guy. I like living life comfortably.
I don't like that guy. I think if you're going with the nice top, you got to go with a nice bottom.
You have to live life comfortably. Speaking of comfortable, before we exit here, I just want to tease ahead to next week's Permission Granted podcast. With football season coming up, those of you who faithfully listen to the DA show, remember Brock's Locks the entire year. We've talked about this a couple times on the show. James Ward will be taking over Brock's Locks and essentially rebranding it because he's not Brock and they may not be Locks. I think we're going with Ward's Winners. Is that what we're doing?
Ward's Winners, still the leader in the clubhouse.
Okay, so James Ward's going to handle your college football. Up the Gut will be back for season 3. Every week we will do our weekly picks, and I'll give you your football food, the whole deal, do the whole breakdown of the show. We have a lot of good stuff planned for football season. Now, next week's Permission Granted podcast, so if you want to tune in, James Ward's going to give you his Heisman. He's going to give you his college football playoff predictions. He's going to give you a national champion. He'll give you a conference champion.
Conference champions, Power 5 conferences.
For the Power 5 conferences. I will give you my NFL playoff teams. I'll give you an NFL MVP, and I will give you my Super Bowl pick. So if you got that football juice flowing, fear not. Me and James have you handled. James and I keep
James and I. Let's go with the proper grammar.
We will take care of that next week for you as we head into Labor Day and head into some real football. So that's been the Permission Granted podcast retrospective. This has been Side B. And for all your football preview, we will be coming to you next week. Check James Ward out on Twitter at
James Ward CBS.
And check me out on Twitter at Mraz CBS. Be good and be good to one another. The Permission Granted podcast disconnects.